She was only 6 years old, sitting in the cold rain with a teddy bear that had already lost an eye and half its stitches. Her sign was written in shaky letters, "Selling bear, need food for mom." Most people walked past, pretending not to see, but one man stopped. He didn't know that buying a worn-out teddy bear could change his life forever. He was a millionaire, someone who had everything the world could offer except hope, except love. And that little girl with dirt on her cheeks and courage in her eyes was about to remind him of something he thought was lost forever. This is not just a story about kindness. It's about second chances, about how even the smallest act of love can rebuild a broken life. Stay with us, and don't forget to subscribe to Hidden Echo Stories, because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that echo inside us. She sat on the edge of the street, the morning still damp from last night's rain, her oversized yellow raincoat hanging off her small shoulders. The teddy bear in front of her was more patchwork than toy, one eye mismatched, a paw stitched clumsily with pink
those
thread.
are so pretty.
Her cardboard sign leaned
beautiful?
against the bear, its letters crooked and uneven. "Selling bear, need food for mom." She looked too young to be sitting there alone, yet there was no fear in her eyes, only determination. Her voice was quiet but firm as she whispered to anyone who passed, "Please buy my teddy. He is clean. I brushed him this morning." But most people kept walking, heads turned away, their lives too full to stop for a child and her broken bear. Daniel Whitmore was among them at first. He moved through the farmer's market like a shadow, his charcoal coat draped neatly, his baseball cap pulled low. The city was alive with color and sound. Children chasing bubbles, the tune of a violin spilling through the air, the scent of bread and herbs rising from the stalls. But he felt none of it. He had long ago built walls so thick that the world barely reached him anymore. Once he had commanded entire rooms with his presence, a man known for sharp deals and colder choices. Now he preferred to pass unnoticed, a ghost wrapped in wealth he no longer cared to show. As he walked, his eyes caught a father helping his daughter pick flowers. The child laughed, clutching tulips to her cheeks. In that moment, Daniel's breath faltered. His chest tightened with the sudden image of Emma, his daughter, her red curls bouncing as she once ran through a field, her fists full of tulips, her laughter pure. The memory struck like a blade, sharp and unforgiving. He turned away quickly, forcing his gaze down, his throat closing. He had come to the market to fill time, not to reopen wounds. But grief had a way of finding cracks, slipping through no matter how strong the defenses. He passed stalls of candles and birdhouses, his mind still tangled in memories he had tried to bury. And then he saw her, the little girl in the yellow coat, sitting on a folded blanket, her hair unevenly tied, her cheeks streaked with dirt or dried tears. Something about her stillness in the middle of all that noise made the crowd blur into silence. For the first time in years, Daniel stopped walking, his eyes locked on hers. They were far too old for her age, large, brown, steady, holding a kind of honesty that cut straight through his armor. She lifted the teddy bear slightly, as if to show him.
He's scared too,
"He is a
but
good
it's
bear,"
okay.
she said. "He takes care of me, but Mama says we must give up things to help the people we love."
He didn't make
Daniel
it.
knelt without realizing it, his knees bending as though gravity itself had forced him down. He had held contracts worth billions, had signed his name to fortunes, but his hands trembled slightly now as he reached toward the cardboard sign, tracing
What's
the
your
edges
name?
with his fingers. The letters seemed to vibrate with something deeper than ink and paper: need, sacrifice, resilience. "What is your name?"
Lucy.
he asked, his voice lower than he remembered, almost foreign to his ears.
Lucy.
"Lucy," she replied. Then with a small shrug, "But you do not have to remember if you do not want to." Her words pierced him. He swallowed hard. "Why are you here alone, Lucy?" She glanced toward the bakery across the street. "Mama is sick. She could not get up today. Her legs hurt too much. But she still sings when she is not too tired." She said it plainly, with no drama, no plea for
She's
pity.
too sick to get
just
up.
truth. Daniel felt something shift inside, like glass cracking quietly. He thought of Emma again, of the hospital machines, of the silence that followed. He exhaled sharply, trying to steady himself. "Would it be all right if I bought you some food? Not for trade, just breakfast."
Do you want to get
Lucy
something
studied his
to
face
eat?
carefully as though searching for the trick,
just
the
don't
hidden
know.
condition adults
I
always
just think it's
seem
important to
carry.
be honest.
Just bread and milk, she finally said. Not too much. Mama
She
says we
requests
only
only
take what we
bread
need.
and milk
Then, after a
and
pause,
maybe a
maybe
banana for
She
potassium.
needs potassium. I saw that on television. A laugh almost escaped his throat, but it caught on the way out, tangled in sorrow. Bread, milk, and a banana, he said softly. We can do that. She stood, clutching the teddy bear close, her small figure dwarfed by the bright coat. He picked up her sign without thinking, folding it neatly under his arm. Together, they walked past flower stalls and jam vendors,
great. I love all
two
the fresh
figures that
produce.
no one paid much attention to. A
Me
man
too.
in an
It's so
expensive
vibrant
coat
and
and a
lively
barefoot
here.
girl with a patched-up bear. Yet for Daniel, every step seemed to echo louder than any boardroom speech he had ever given. Inside the bakery, warmth enveloped them, rich with the smell of cinnamon and butter. Lucy paused at the threshold, her eyes widening at the glass cases filled with pastries. For a brief second, she was just a child again, her gaze glowing with wonder. Daniel watched quietly, noticing how she pressed closer to the teddy bear as if to share the moment with him too. You can choose anything you want, Daniel said gently. She blinked at him and so. But I only have one bear, she whispered. His throat tightened. You are not trading anymore. You are choosing. Slowly, her finger lifted toward a grilled cheese sandwich, her choice so modest it nearly broke him. He added 2 sandwiches, a banana, milk, apple juice, and without thinking, a cinnamon roll. Emma had loved those, always eating the center first. As they sat by the window, Lucy took careful bites, chewing slowly, her small hands cradling the sandwich like it was treasure. Halfway through, she folded the rest into a napkin. For Mama, she explained. Daniel nodded, blinking back the sting in his eyes. She looked at him then, her voice soft. You do not feel like a stranger. Most people ask if I have a daddy. You did not. Daniel froze, the words cutting into him deeper than she could know. Do you? She asked. His grip tightened on his cup. I did, he whispered. Her name was Emma.
I only
Lucy
have one bear
nodded
to
solemnly.
trade.
As if she understood more than her years allowed. She tore off a piece of the cinnamon roll and held it out.
You are not trading anymore.
This is how I share with Mama, she said. He accepted it silently, the sweetness lingering not just on his tongue but in the hollow places of his heart. When they left, the air outside had cooled and clouds
I would like a
gathered
couple of
over the
sandwiches,
river.
milk,
Lucy shivered in her
orange
thin
juice,
coat.
and a cinnamon roll.
Daniel hesitated, then asked, Do you want a ride home? She tilted
Here
her
are
head.
your sandwiches.
Your car will not mind. For the first time in what felt like years, Daniel smiled faintly. No, my car has been lonely too. She climbed into the SUV, studying the leather seats with wide eyes, her fingers tracing the stitching as if it were gold. It smells clean, she said, like hospital floors. Daniel did not know whether to laugh or cry. As he drove, he stole glances at her in the mirror. The image of her on the blanket with the teddy bear replayed over and over in his mind. He could not shake it, nor did he want to. Something inside him knew, even before he parked in front of the small trailer she called home, that his life had already shifted. What began as a simple pause at a market stall
I
was no
truly
longer
am the
simple at all.
best nurse
It was
a
the
mother
start
could
of
ask
something
for.
he could not yet name, but something he knew he could not walk away from. The trailer park was quiet when Daniel pulled up, the kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Faded curtains fluttered in the cracked windows, and paint peeled from doors that had
You
once
don't feel
been
like a
bright.
stranger at all.
Lucy pointed to one of the smaller homes with a chipped mailbox leaning forward as
Why
though
would you
it
say
could
that?
no longer hold itself upright. That one, she
People
said
usually
simply.
start with that,
Her voice held
asking
no
about
shame,
a father.
only a matter-of-factness that cut
but he
deeper
did
than
not.
pity could. Daniel followed her up the creaking
I
wooden
once had a
steps,
daughter.
each groan of the boards echoing like a
Emma.
warning. At the door, Lucy paused and looked back at him, her brown eyes steady. Please don't tell anyone we need help, she whispered. People treat you different when they know. The words pierced him, not because
Want
of their
some?
weight, but because they carried the weary knowledge of someone far older than 6. He crouched to meet her gaze, lowering himself to her level. I will not tell, he said softly. Only then did she push the door open. The air inside was stale, a mixture of damp fabric, menthol rub, and something faintly floral, like a ghost of lavender clinging stubbornly to the room. Light seeped through a torn curtain, painting the floor in strips of tired
Do
yellow.
you need a ride home?
On a low bed in the corner lay a woman beneath a heap of blankets. Her skin was pale, her breathing uneven, her face drawn tight with illness. "Mama," Lucy whispered, kneeling beside her.
My car
The
has been
woman
lonely
stirred
too.
but did not fully wake. Daniel
No,
stood
no.
frozen, unsure how to belong in such a fragile place. He had been in penthouses and conference rooms, in polished spaces where silence meant power, not survival. Here, silence was something else, something raw. Lucy smoothed her mother's hair, her small hands steady. "She could not get up today," she explained, her voice calm but edged with practiced sadness. "When the medicine runs out, she sings to feel better." Daniel's chest tightened.
It smells like
He could
hospital
hear
floors.
Emma's lullabies in his memory, the way her voice had trailed into silence on her last day. He turned away and pulled out his phone with trembling fingers. "Marcus," he said when his assistant answered. His voice was sharp, urgent, stripped of its usual composure. "Find Dr. Lee. I do not care where he is. Bring him here with a mobile team. Now." He ended the call and leaned heavily against the counter, his head bowed. The room was spinning, not because of its poverty, but because of the reflection he saw in it. A child forced to carry too much, a mother fighting a battle she could not win alone. "She used to be a nurse," Lucy murmured, still watching her mother. But no one helped her back. The words hollowed him out. He had built empires on people's backs, yet here was a woman who had once given care and had been abandoned in her need. His throat closed around the truth. Minutes stretched before headlights cut across the window, and a black SUV pulled up, followed by a medical van. Dr. Lee stepped inside, his bag in hand, his team moving swiftly. The room filled with measured commands, soft footsteps, and the hiss of oxygen. Lucy shrank back at first, clutching her teddy bear, until a nurse offered her a blanket and knelt to her level. She accepted it silently, her eyes flicking between her mother and Daniel. He stayed close, answering questions, relaying Lucy's careful observations about fevers and skipped meals. When they lifted Grace onto the stretcher, her head lolled weakly. Lucy stepped forward quickly, her voice trembling but firm.
Don't tell anyone we
"It is
need
okay,
help.
Mama. You can rest. I am going with you." She reached for Daniel's hand then, and without hesitation,
I won't
he closed
tell
his
anyone,
fingers
I
around
promise.
hers. The weight of her trust pressed deep into his chest. At the hospital, the white corridors gleamed under dimmed lights. Daniel walked with Lucy at his side, her raincoat still damp, her small hand gripping his like an anchor. He spoke to the charge nurse in a tone that left no space for refusal. "Her name is Grace Miller. She has no insurance. That does not matter. Run every test. Give her the best care possible. She stays here, and so does the child." The nurse hesitated, her gaze shifting to Lucy, but Daniel's eyes were unyielding. "She will also be seen tonight. She has not eaten properly. She may be dehydrated. She will not say it, but she is scared." His voice was low but carried a weight that was not just wealth, it was resolve. Later, as Grace was taken into care, Daniel sat on a small bench beside Lucy. Her head leaned against his sleeve, her eyes fixed on the door that had closed behind her mother. "She will come back out, right?" she whispered. "She will," Daniel answered, though the
My
certainty in
mom
his tone came
sings
more from
when the
hope than
medicine
knowledge.
runs out.
Lucy reached for his hand again, and he let her hold it tighter. Marcus arrived breathless, his suit rumpled, his face pale with confusion. "Daniel, you vanished all day." He stopped when he saw Lucy. The child clung closer to Daniel's side, her gaze wary. Marcus lowered his voice. "Is this
Get
a
me Dr.
charity
Lee,
thing?"
now.
Daniel's response was firm, steady. "No, it is a fatherhood thing." Marcus said nothing more. That night, Lucy sat in a wide hospital bed in the guest suite. She was so small the sheets seemed to swallow her whole. A nurse had given her cocoa in a paper cup with a cheerful cartoon duck on it. She sipped quietly, exhaustion clouding her eyes. Daniel watched from a chair nearby. "You do not have to stay," she said softly. "I know," he replied, "but I want to." She looked at him for a long moment before holding out her teddy bear, placing it carefully in his lap. "He keeps bad dreams away. He can help you too." Daniel stared at
Here's
the
a
ragged
warm blanket
toy.
for you.
It seems frayed. Its mismatched eye dull in the light. He pulled it to his chest solemnly.
Are you ready, Lucy?
"Does he work
I
for
suppose so.
grown-ups?" She shrugged.
You will
"He
be
tries."
great.
She drifted to sleep soon after, her breathing slow and fragile. Daniel pulled the blanket higher over her shoulders, then sat silently in the dim room. He had not cried in years, but the tears came quietly now, slipping down his face as if released from a place he had locked too long. When Lucy stirred, half asleep,
It is
she
okay
mumbled,
to rest, Mother.
"Do you think she will smile again?" Daniel brushed a curl from her forehead, his voice low. "Only if you do too."
It has
She
to
made
be.
no reply, but her small fingers twitched once against the sheet. In that moment, beneath the hum of machines and the faint scent of cocoa, Daniel Whitmore realized that, for the first time in years, something like hope had rooted itself inside him again. The days at the hospital blurred into one another, marked not by meetings or business calls, but by the rhythm of breathing monitors and the soft shuffle of nurses' shoes. Grace's fever had broken after long nights of uncertainty, and color slowly returned to her cheeks. Lucy remained at her side through every moment, whispering
Daniel.
stories, humming fragments of songs, or simply holding her mother's hand in silence. Daniel was there too, never far, no longer the man who drifted through life untouched.
I don't care about the cost.
He
Grace
found
needs the
himself
best
leaning
care available.
forward in every conversation with doctors, asking questions, demanding answers,
It will
and
be
listening
handled.
intently to every detail Lucy provided. One evening, after Lucy had fallen asleep
Lucy
curled
must be
in the
checked
chair
too.
beside Grace's bed, Grace opened her eyes and
Why
spoke,
can't I?
her voice thin but steady. "You should not be doing this,"
You are
she
my
whispered.
everything.
Daniel leaned closer,
My love.
unsure what she meant. "Doing
My
what?"
life.
She coughed softly, then shook her head. "All of it, paying for this, watching her, staying." Daniel met her gaze without flinching. "Why
Here's
not?"
your cocoa. Thank you, nurse.
"Because we are not your responsibility," Grace said, her tone weary but sincere. "She is not your child. I am not your burden." He sat quietly for a moment, then spoke with a calm he had not felt in years. "Maybe not, but maybe I need her as much as she needs me." Grace did not respond, but she did not look away either.
You don't have to
In her
stay.
silence, there was no rejection. When Lucy finally returned to Daniel's penthouse, she walked slowly through the wide glass doors as though she had entered a museum where touching anything might shatter it. The polished marble, the soaring windows,
Here's your new
the quiet
friend.
hum of the city far below, it was another world. Daniel had arranged a guest room for her, one with a small white bed, a quilt stitched with stars, a shelf lined with storybooks and colored pencils. Lucy froze at the
He
threshold.
keeps away
I
bad
never had a
dreams.
room before," she murmured. Daniel tilted his head. "You mean a room of your own?"
Does the bear
She shook her
work for
head.
grown-ups
"Any room,
too?
just mine." His throat tightened, but he managed a smile. "Well, now you do." She tiptoed inside, her small fingers brushing the edge of the
He
desk,
tries.
the windowsill, the quilt. Then she turned back, her eyes wide. "Can I draw on the wall?" Daniel blinked. "On the wall." "Just in the corner," she said quickly, afraid he might scold. He hesitated, then chuckled softly. "You can draw a whole mural if you want." That night she fell asleep beneath the quilt, her teddy bear clutched tightly, while Daniel sat in the hallway listening to her soft, even breaths. The apartment felt different already. Once it had been filled with silence, echoing with absence. Now it held the faintest sounds of life, the scratch of crayons, the shuffle of small feet, the quiet hum of comfort where grief had lived for too long. In the days that followed, Lucy's laughter began to spill through the penthouse like sunlight through open blinds. Her drawings appeared on the refrigerator, her socks tangled with his in the laundry, her voice filling spaces he had forgotten existed. And slowly, Grace grew stronger. With careful steps and stubborn determination, she walked again, her body still fragile but her
Look what
spirit
I
unwilling to
made.
break. One afternoon,
Awesome.
Daniel brought Grace and Lucy to the rooftop garden, a place he had never truly used. Once neglected, it now bloomed with marigolds and sunflowers Lucy had chosen. "They look like
Oopsie.
fireworks," she explained, "and smiles too." Grace leaned against the railing, her face warmed by the sun, her cheeks flushed with color. For the first time, Daniel realized he was not just watching them, he was part of them. Later, in a quiet moment, he spoke to Grace as Lucy played nearby with chalk. "I met with a lawyer," he said carefully, "about guardianship, about making sure Lucy is never left alone." Grace's eyes softened, tears
I
brimming
can
but
do
not
it
falling.
myself.
"You would do that?" I have never been more certain of anything, Daniel replied. His voice carried no hesitation, only truth. Grace reached for his hand then, her touch light but firm. I was so sure I would die alone, she whispered. Daniel shook his head gently. You are not alone anymore. That evening, Lucy asked him a question as he tucked her into bed. Do I have to go back to the trailer when Mama is better? Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, meeting her gaze. Not unless you want to. She hesitated, then whispered, Can I have a key here? Forever. His throat caught, but he nodded. I will do you one better. From his pocket, he pulled a small box. Inside lay a gold locket.
Yeah,
on one side was a picture of Grace, on the other, Lucy's crayon drawing of the three of them together. Lucy gasped, her fingers trembling as she opened it. It is us, she whispered. Daniel smiled softly. So wherever you go, we go too. She threw her arms around his neck, clutching him tightly. You are really not leaving. Not in a million years, he murmured, holding her close. From then on, life shifted. There were no grand pronouncements, no sudden revelations. Instead, there was a quiet rhythm, breakfasts that were often burnt but filled with laughter, evenings spent in the garden under string lights, Lucy's humming filling the spaces between words. Grace healed slowly, her steps stronger each day, her smile returning little by little. And Daniel, once a man who had lived behind walls, found himself lowering them, brick by brick. Home, he realized, was not the glass tower he owned or the fortune his name carried. It was the sound of Lucy's giggle, the sight of Grace brushing her daughter's curls, the warmth of belonging. It was not about rebuilding what he had lost, but choosing what he would keep from now on. And for the first time since Emma, Daniel Whitmore did not feel like a man haunted by grief. He felt like a man who had found a family.
No!
Sometimes the smallest moments carry the greatest weight. A worn-out teddy bear, a cardboard sign written in a child's shaky hand, a stranger stopping when no one else would. All of it could have been forgotten in the noise of an ordinary day. Yet that moment became the beginning of something extraordinary. Daniel Whitmore thought his story had ended years ago, when grief carved a hollow place inside him, and he built walls too high for anyone to climb. But Lucy, with her oversized coat and unshakable courage, reminded him that love still exists in the unlikeliest of places. And Grace, fragile yet strong, proved that resilience can survive even in the darkest hours. Together, they did not simply share kindness. They built something far more enduring. They built family. Family is not always about bloodlines or last names. Sometimes it is about who stays when the nights grow heavy and the mornings feel uncertain. Sometimes it is about who reaches out a hand, not because they must, but because they cannot walk away. Daniel chose to stay. Grace chose to trust. And Lucy chose to believe again. In that choice, they discovered that broken pieces can come together to create something whole. When we watch stories like this, we are reminded that life offers us second chances. We are reminded that no matter how far we drift, there is always a way back to love, to connection, to hope. What began with a teddy bear sold for survival became a story of redemption, of healing, and of a home found in the most unexpected place. And perhaps that is why you are here. Perhaps you, too, needed to remember that even in a world that often feels cold, kindness has not vanished. It waits in the quiet corners, in the courage of a child, in the choice of a man who once thought he was too broken to care again. This is more than just a story. It is an echo, a reminder that love is never wasted, that hope can be reborn, and that family can be created in the most surprising ways. And if this touched your heart even a little, stay with us. Because here at Hidden Echo Stories, we believe that every story carries a truth worth holding onto. Subscribe now to Hidden Echo Stories and join us as we share more tales of resilience, compassion, and the power of second chances. The next story might be the one that reminds you that healing is possible, and that love, in all its forms, is the greatest gift of all.